Sox fans, if you're out there still, welcome back. Hey, it's Hot Takes and Heaters under the FutureSox umbrella. He is Danny Miller. I am Nick Murawski. This is the MLB-centric portion of the FutureSox world as we record here on July 30th. Just a few hours after the deadline, after the trade deadline, is our beloved Chicago White Sox just blew another lead to the Kansas City Royals and are just in absolute pathetic fashion. We have so much to get to on the tails of this trade deadline. Who's left? Who came back? Our thoughts. Please jump on in the comments. I'd love to hear your anger, your excitement, your indifference, whatever you have on some of these deals that went down for the White Sox or didn't go down. There's no shortage of opinions and things to talk about a historically horrible team and organization. It's tough to get through that without having to laugh. But Danny Miller, how are you, buddy?
It's been a busy few days, not just with the White Sox, but in life in general. But I'm here, man, and I'm ready to go. And I'm seeing, man, the chat is rolling. These
Yeah,
guys are on top of it already. I just want to take a quick moment before we get rolling to address a couple of these things. But
yeah, yeah.
Clutch talking about how Fraser Allard makes his MLB debut in the eighth inning in a one-run game, and you know what? Fraser's a guy who can handle some pressure, but I have to agree. I don't think this is how I would have brought him in his first appearance with the White Sox. But it is what it is. And then also Drew Bogues checking in saying, "Can we both be happy and frustrated with how things went at the deadline?" And you know what? We will definitely get into that tonight, Drew. I think that's going to be a big part of our show. But thanks again to everybody checking in: Clutch, Trey, Drew, uh, Sir Lowry, all you guys getting in here early and often, and we appreciate that. But yeah, all is well, man. How are you doing, Mister Nick?
Good. Doing good. Just kind of exhausted with this team. I mean, after today and what's going to happen for the rest of this season and into the off season, it's wearing, man. I'm feeling it today. It's just what are we doing? What are we doing talking about this team, this organization? I mean, we're just spinning our wheels here. The fact that we're here recording this, it's not for this isn't for monetary value. This isn't for financial gain. This isn't, this is because we just love this team. It's a passion of ours. We find it to be therapeutic. I enjoy talking to you, and I like, rubbing shoulders with other Sox fans in the comments. I think this is an outlet. We're all
Absolutely.
trying to figure this out, but it's wearing on me here, and I'll get to it, especially with the Kopech and Aloy stuff, and I'll expand. But personally, I'm doing great. Spent the weekend in Galena, beautiful country up there, on a little golf trip. Played a course called the General and a few others. If you're familiar with the Eagle Ridge Resort up there in Galena, outstanding.
Oh, yeah, I've
Great
been there.
golf, great just atmosphere. Loved it. It's a less than 3 hours away, and I had a blast with some very good friends of mine. So all good, and here we are. Back to reality.
Yeah, it's been brought up a few times in the chat already tonight. We're on a 15 game losing streak, looking like it could be 16 tonight. It's difficult to watch this team with any kind of enthusiasm whatsoever. Draft and trade deadline be a whole different subject, but the baseball that we're watching on TV right now, if you're still going to games, I'm sure you can't be happy with the product that's being rolled out on the field. It's tough, man, and it is draining. But we do have some positives and some negatives that I'm sure we're gonna hammer on, uh, quite a bit tonight. So there's gonna be some moments where I'm gonna be fairly positive. There's going to be some probably what should be curse laden rants that are going to happen tonight as well too. And I want to thank Trey for jumping
Yeah.
in with the first super chat of the night. We appreciate that. We appreciate all you guys when you jump in and give us a little tip and help us keep the website going. So we appreciate that.
And I'll tell you, I mean, you don't need my permission. You don't need Danny's permission. You feel however you want to feel.
Right.
If you enjoyed some of the things that happened at the deadline, if you enjoyed seeing certain guys, um, dealt to different teams, if you enjoyed the Sox holding on, if you hated whatever, I mean, we got our takes, but you feel how you want to feel. Again, I shouldn't be giving you permission. That's just
I mean, the name
that's
of
a
the
right.
show
But
is Hot Takes and Heaters. And,
yeah,
anybody that follows me on Twitter knows I've had a couple of hot takes in the last couple of days. And, I mean, sue me for being emotional. You know what I mean? Like, this is a team that we all invest a
bothers
lot of
me.
time and money into. So,
Well, one thing that I got to just say, NBC Sports Chicago, their White Sox Talk social media page put something out on Eloy, and maybe it was Ryan McGuffey that had most of those quotes. I don't know if you saw this, Danny, with what a joyous day because Eloy's gone, and can we get like a thank you Baltimore or thank you Orioles? I didn't mind some of that. I absolutely didn't. I don't know why it's getting so much heat, and people all of a sudden are just like, "Oh, how dare you?" He had positive moments. He's a human being. Of course, he's a human being. This is the process though. At the deadline, guys get dealt. He did absolutely nothing for us. The last what year and a half, 2 years. I mean, I struggle to go back to when he was a force, if he was really ever a consistent force. Now, he got dumped on, absolutely pounded over and over by people on social media and all over the place. And now there's this feeling of like, oh, well, wait a second. We got to we got to check ourselves on how we handle this. I honestly don't get it. Like why we're now sobering up to that. Like he was dumped on for years and kind of rightfully so, in my opinion. And I'm not, hey, his body didn't hold up. He just couldn't perform. I am happy that he's gone. I am glad that we are done with him. But at the same time, it hits me right between the eyes. Wow. Like this was the guy that was supposed to take us to the promised land. One of the guys,
yeah, absolutely.
along with one of the guys that was dealt, from the get-go on Monday in Kopech. And last season, Giolito. And in the offseason, Dylan Cease. And most likely this offseason, there'll be more chips that these were supposed to be our guys. This was going to be our window. We were going to be celebrating. So I'm happy to see Eloy gone, but it's still rattling of, wow, I still can't believe how that didn't work out.
Yeah. It's a shame. And I get, kind of the good and the bad of that, the feelings that come with it, the emotions that come with that, because we did see glimpses of a guy who looked like he was going to be an absolute superstar. I go back to those first two dingers that he hit in a White Sox uniform against the Yankees, and
Yep.
they were monster bombs, and everybody was thrilled. And then we get the homer against the Cubs and Benetti throwing it in their face, and Sox fans lighten up over thanks Cubs. And he had a couple of really good seasons, and then he had a couple of injury plague seasons, and he hasn't been the same since. He's made some dumb mistakes, and I wish him the best. I feel like Baltimore obviously feels like they can unlock something in him, because the fact that we got anybody back for him, and early reports were suggesting that the White Sox were not going to have to eat the majority of his contract, on top of getting a AAA left-handed power relief pitcher out of the deal. Baltimore obviously feels like they can get something of value out of him. They'll probably use him in a platoon, to kind of better get what they expect out of him. But man, the ire that he has drawn from fans after a couple of years of praise, I understand. but there was the good moments and the bad moments. And the last couple of years, a lot of our superstars just seem like they're checked out. And
Yeah.
maybe a different environment was going to help some of these guys. But, hey, it is what it is. And I am not upset about seeing him go at this point in time. I just don't know if he's ever going to turn around in a White Sox uniform.
Yeah, I think the highlight of the whole Lloyd thing was just to get, take care of the financials. Okay, you got somebody, you got a warm body back, and that's kind of how I look at it. We don't know on any of this.
No, absolutely not.
I'm a little disappointed, and maybe you can, help me out with this. Of the Fetty and Pham and Kopech
Oh, here we
and
go.
DeYoung and Banks and Loy. Am I missing anybody else that was dealt? What do we really?
DeYoung.
Yeah, what do we have in return? What do we have to show for it right now? Vargas, is that it?
You know what? If you want to look at it from a right now perspective, yeah, it's gonna be Vargas. I also think that the relief pitcher that we got, McGough or whatever his name is, Trey McGough from Baltimore today, I think will be part of the White Sox team in short order. But yeah, the rest of it is looking like it's going to be a couple of years, minimum 2 years. In some cases, maybe 3 to 4 years, where we can actually grade some of the returns on some of these guys. In the Pham Fetty Kopech, 3-team, 7-player deal, there are a couple of guys outside of Vargas that, they're low or they're high A prospects and they're young and they're promising in their young age. But the way I see things, man, guys that are 19, 20, 21 years old and 2 or 3 years away from the bigs are suspect always. You never know how things are going to go. I don't know. Did you catch my tweet yesterday about, what prospect rankings looked like in 2017 in the first full year of the
Well,
last rebuild?
I know where Kopech was at entering 2017. He was like what 32nd, and wasn't Vargas up to 37th last year? Is that right?
Right.
Okay,
Right.
so yeah,
Kopech is actually higher. And I'm just going to pull it up here because there was a lot of information there. But yeah, if we look at just the top 5 prospects in all of baseball in 2017, the top 2 were Andrew Benintendi and Yohan Moncada, 1 and 2.
wow.
So my first, and I know there's a lot of people out there that like the Vargas signing. I am not particularly happy about it, him being the centerpiece of this return.
And I want to hear
Dre and
more
I,
about that. I want to hear more why you're not too happy about that.
well, Trey and I had a long discussion. Trey's
Yeah, I saw
on the
some of
Vargas
that.
train, and
Yeah.
it's fine, and it's okay. I could be very wrong. I am not some prospect whispering guru. You know what I mean? I leave most of that up to the rest of the guys here at FutureSox, but I do my homework. And I am one that is baffled by the fact that Vargas ever made it up to 37.
Hmm.
Because when they talk about hints of power, if you go back and look, his exit velocity is below league average, even in the minor leagues. It's below league average, considerably below league average in the major leagues in his time in the majors. And he's a dead pull power hitter. He doesn't go anywhere but like right down the line in left field. He's had a lot of wall scrapers in the minors. He's a poor defender, especially in the infield, and he's got a weak arm. He's got like a 40 grade arm. So, like, he was drafted as a third baseman. I don't know how you have a 40 grade third baseman's arm. I'm not exactly sure. I might be wrong on that number, but he's been touted as not having the strongest arm. And he was drafted as a third baseman. If your positions are gonna be third base and corner outfield, you'd expect a little more pop. And I'm just not sold on that. And then the
Yeah.
other side of that coin is the White Sox. We're talking about maybe there's something that I'm missing with him. Maybe I'm completely wrong and off on him, but the White Sox don't develop bats very well. And if we're trying to
Correct.
unlock something with them, I just don't feel like this is the organization to do that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I wasn't thrilled about the return with him, and I really am hoping I'm wrong. But my main point is that prospect rankings mean absolutely nothing to me when you've got Andrew Benintendi and Yohan Moncada are number 1 and number 2 in that ranking list.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
Lucas Giolito
absolutely.
was like 12, and Michael Kopech was like 14, and Eloy Jimenez was
Well,
right up in
that's
there.
where that's where I struggle at with Danny is I get it. I get the type of players that were dealt in this flurry here. It was guys that are going to help teams during this couple month stretch. There isn't a ton of value. Fetty was the one where he went and did something right in KBO. He was able to figure out a pitch that he just did not have with the Washington Nationals, and did well for himself. And
And that's a
was
great point because it's not just this season.
no, yeah, it's not. It's not like the Sox came in and fixed him. Like he was fixed, which is why the Sox went out and signed him to the 2-year, $15 million deal, and they signed him because we needed somebody in the rotation. And I do think, and I will give the organization credit for this could be something we absolutely can flip at the deadline. That was a purposeful signing to flip. They knew this team wasn't going to be competitive. I don't think anybody knew they were going to be absolutely god awful in every facet and historically bad right now at this point. Here's we end July, but that was a signing to get something for the future at the deadline. And when you look at what the Blue Jays did, and with the Padres and Houston and all these other teams that were involved in these, I feel like more eye-popping packages after the Fetty deal. I kind of wonder, what am I missing here? Was there still meat on the bone that Getz just didn't know how to orchestrate, or was maybe manipulated or was bullied into something, and he didn't really realize how much value he had?
It sure feels that way. And by the way, I do want to say Blank Name corrected me in the chat here and told me that MLB Pipeline has Vargas's arm rated as a 55, which is 50 being right at the average, so he's slightly above average on his arm. But every other report I've read says something else, so I'm not sure what to believe. But I did read an article coming straight from Dodgers. I think it was actually Dodgers territory article. They wrote him up, and they weren't pleased with some of his throws or his capability. But anywho, yeah, I mean, just getting back to what you're saying, it feels like, and the trade that happened immediately after the Fetty trade, where people were like, "Oh my God, there was so much better return." I don't necessarily agree with that because of people are using prospect numbers from different organizations where they're ranked within the organization.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And a guy who's ranked, 12 in a Dodgers organization is probably still better than the guy who's ranked
it carries a different weight
higher in a
absolutely.
different, organization. Sure. When you've got a farm system as strong as the Dodgers. My concern though is much like the Yankees. I think a lot of the Dodgers prospects are overvalued because if we look at a history of the Dodgers, they tend not to part with their good prospects. They hold on to those guys. The guys that they trade away don't normally have great careers. They've evaluated these guys once they're in their system, and they're like, you know what? We can probably do without them. But we're going to bank on guys that were drafted with high ceilings and then sell them, much like the Padres. Padres are spectacularly known for that because they know they'll never play a day on the Major League Ball Club. So, it's how the numbers are spun within these inner circles. And I don't know if it's done to make GMs feel better or fans feel better or both, because you would hopefully think that your GMs know better.
It's subjective in a way, and you have to really, as we learned after the last rebuild, you have to really pump the brakes. And that's where I understand you're not going to get a lot of MLB ready talent after this wave. Now, if Crochet is dealt and Robert is dealt in the offseason, or maybe at next year's deadline, whatever that may be, that should be a different story. I don't want a bunch of 19-year-olds or, some guys that have a bunch of upside or that need to be developed or this, that, and the other. Like
Well,
we're
on the
going
back end of the deal, that's fine, but
those can't,
a solid two centerpiece.
Exactly. Those can't be the main pieces. So that's where I'm starting to get a little uneasy, and I have to be patient because I don't think it was going to come with this wave, with the guys that we dealt. But I need to start seeing major league ready talent that has shown that they could play at this level, not a bunch of just like scratch off lottery tickets where it could be possibly anything.
Right. Yeah, I agree 1,000% on that. If they, I'm sure are going to shop these guys heavily in the offseason. I don't expect either one of them to be here on the team in 2025. So, like Clutch says, he asks about Crochet and Robert.
Yeah.
What do we think of them staying? And I'm going to go ahead and hit the second part of his comment in the chat here about Crochet's agency comments.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And it was actually Garrett Crochet that came out and said it. It may have been his agency that kind of told him sit back and hope for an extension, but I don't think Garrett Crochet was meant to come out to the media and say what he did. And I think he shot himself in the foot. And there's been a handful of major league GMs who have not been, and former GMs who have not been quiet about saying he did. So, I want to address the folks out there that saying, Chris Getz was throwing him under the bus by saying he was disappointed by how this all happened. We're ready to just crap all over Getz because, we don't feel like he's a great GM, but what he said to the media yesterday about being surprised and shocked and not feeling great about how that went down, he's 100% right.
Well, what about taking the high road, though, Danny, just to play devil's advocate? Getz is the GM. You got a player that's popping off a little bit, maybe talking out of school. Getz is the GM. Getz maybe should have just kept his mouth. He could be irate and angry, but there's still a relationship, though, that could be developed here. And maybe they could be adults at the end of the day and they could still work on an extension perhaps, but the guy's got 2 more years. I would just say don't even comment.
Yeah, but I don't feel like he really said anything all that bad. I mean, when you come on and you say you're disappointed and shocked,
I would just say not even comment about it.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, but this is actually one of the things we as Sox fans have been complaining about for years is the fact that they don't want to talk about things and they kind of had to, keep things close to the chest. And I know there's a fine line between both and I get it, but he spoke the truth and maybe it wasn't a good look for him. It wasn't a good look for Garrett Crochet. It's probably not a good look for Chris Getz. All I'm saying is I understand it. I just don't think that it was as bad as a lot of people are trying to make it out to be because he screwed himself and he screwed the White Sox. And unfortunately for Garrett, he could be pitching for a contender right now had he left his mouth shut. But instead, he's stuck in the White Sox where he's not going to get anywhere near the amount of exposure. He might have went into the postseason and got higher arbitration number next year if he didn't get a contract extension. And instead, he's going to have to wait to the offseason to see if he gets dealt.
This was, I believe it was from Vinny Duber from CHGO who reported on Chris Getz was surprised, taken aback by Garrett Crochet's camp letting extension demand be known, calling it hurtful. After talking about how good relationship has been, he didn't disagree with stance, saying it makes sense, but said it has created questions in trade talks. Asked if there's a chance White Sox could sign Crochet to an extension. Getz said, I think there's a chance, but it also goes back to what's best for the long-term health of the Sox. We are weighing all those things. Right now, we are just focused on making sound decisions. So let me press you on the ask by Crochet. Like,
I'm sorry, I just have to laugh at your choice of words on press.
Oh, sure. let me press you on Crochet's got 2 more years. He's a first-year starter with an injury history. He has performed amazingly, an all-star. I find it a little like I could see management and I could see ownership and I could see GMs being like, who is this guy? This guy's got 2 years on his deal and he's demanding an extension to pitch in October. He doesn't hold the cards. That's right, where
zero leverage. That's
where I could see everyone's saying, oh, well, Crochet's got to protect himself. It's like, well, you got 2 more years.
And it wasn't about protecting himself. I guarantee you, if you read between the lines, it was him about trying to create leverage where there was none. He wanted money. He wanted to get paid, and he's trying to solidify his future. I don't blame him for that. I just think he went about it the wrong way, and it like it said in the chat. Clutch says it's a lose-lose scenario, and it was. It was unfortunate, but as Peyton also says in the chat, oh no, I get to watch one of my favorite players continue to play on my favorite team. How terrible. I'm not mad about Garrett Crochet staying here. I just hope that their relationship isn't marred.
That's where I'm at. I of course am not disappointed that we get more Crochet, but I hate to say that it's difficult for me to appreciate the present when I know what the future holds. And again, we don't know exactly what the future holds. I should say what I anticipate the future will hold. He might not be happy here. He might want out, which I don't blame him. Nobody blames anybody that wants to get out of this White Sox organization, especially when Crochet realizes what he is right now and what he's got and how he, there are teams out there, there are organizations out there that will pay him, that have the money, that have the aggressiveness, that have the ownership group to do that. And by the way, they have done that with all different kinds of players. So they've got good teams that will go deep in the playoffs for multiple years. And that's what you're looking at as a young athlete like Crochet. So yes, we get to watch him pitch, but I guess I'm looking for more of, well, if they signed him to an extension, the Sox, well, that's a whole different story. Now we get to watch not only the present, but also the future. And I'm so future focused right now because whatever we have right now that's left after the dust settled is garbage. And a bunch of these guys are going to be gone after the season's over anyway. So it troubles me that like a guy like Crochet that I want them to build around, we've got this possible animosity, and maybe I'm just reading more into it than there is.
No, I think you have nailed it on the head, honestly. There's again, I'm going to revert back to the chat where Trey says he's assuming the relationship is tarnished. I don't know that that's an unfair assumption. I don't know that it's a fair assumption either. It's difficult to say, without being in that room. Like Get said, there was a great relationship between them until this point. You hope that they can mend their fences and move on. There is still a lot of season left. We're just beyond the midway point here, a couple weeks beyond the midway point, and Garrett Crochet is going to have to continue to go out and perform if he does want that big deal and that big extension next year or the big contract beyond when his numbers come up. And he's up for arbitration this year as well, too. So his ARB numbers, if he wants to get the biggest arbitration number he can, possibly one of the biggest in MLB history, he's going to have to continue to perform. So, you hope that relationship isn't bad. And you hope that maybe there's a possibility that the White Sox can extend him. It just depends on what it's going to cost the team and how willing Jerry is going to pay, to be able to pay a pitcher. And the White Sox have not shown a propensity for that type of deal. So, it's all up in the air right now.
Clutch had mentioned, is it even worth talking about Pedro at this point as the Sox now have lost their 16th in a row.
Wow.
Could not come back from letting the Royals come back. The Paul DeYoung Kansas City Royals. So there was something floating around on the old Twitter X from Shane Reardon of 670 The Score. And Reardon put this thing out there. And I don't know what truth there is to it, but that there was a source or he got wind of Pedro kind of giving a pep talk after the All-Star break, basically putting this losing streak and this horrible play and everything on the players. Like, you're going to be remembered for how this team unfolds. Like, your names are going to be in the history book of the worst team ever. Not necessarily the coaches, it's you, the players. And it didn't sound like the veterans took kindly to all of that. I think Pedro tried to completely deny all of that in a statement. I didn't read the entire statement that was put out of his rambling of, his track record and why he would never say anything like that. I don't know if it's valid or how much time to put into it, but based on what we've seen from Pedro over the last year and a half plus, I could see him saying something like that. I think he's tone deaf. He doesn't get it. I don't think he understands how to do this job. I think someone even said in Reardon's post, a player or a source said he's a nice guy, but he's just, he's almost he's out of his. This is out of his league. Like,
yeah, he's out of touch.
He's out of touch, and I think we've felt that way for a long time with Pedro. And of course, this streak is not all on him, and it's not all on one thing. It's really a stew of a bunch of White Sox stuff that's been going on and bubbling for a while. But Pedro hasn't helped anything, and I just, I'm going to keep talking about Pedro until he's gone because he's here.
We have to.
He's here, right? Like, but I absolutely, I never thought he was the right guy to begin with, and it's gonna be a joyous day when he's gone. That's for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. But I guess that depends on who they replace him with, because we thought we couldn't do any worse after Tony La Russa, and yet here we are. So,
well, let's talk AJ, Danny. If you want to talk AJ,
talk AJ.
I mean, you heard that rumor, right? I mean, and AJ even commented on it.
Yes, and that's exactly what I wanted to get into, because that rumor, it hit Twitter and it exploded. And then it went from Twitter to Facebook and it exploded there. And the amount of fans that are all about that is mind-boggling to me. Why on earth we would want another former player with zero coaching experience? Does anybody remember Robin Ventura?
But see,
great baseball player.
I can make an argument for why people want it and why it could happen, but keep going. But continue.
Well, I mean, okay, I could make arguments for it too, but in reality, this whole thing, when it was, and who was it that leaked it? Was it Bob Nightingale again?
Nightingale, yeah,
I believe it was. And
he's a serious contender for 2025 White Sox manager.
Yes, and we jokingly talk about how Bob's got the bat phone right to Jerry's office, but the crazy thing is AJ goes on his Foul Territory podcast, and him and Scott Braun are talking, and he says, I have no idea what this is all about. Nobody has ever contacted me. I've never been interviewed. He's talked numerous times about him and Jerry Reinsdorf staying in contact over the years, and they still talk, periodically now these days.
Well, he was calling the Fox national game on Saturday, so he was in the building.
Right. So, it's not like they don't have contact. And then this thing comes out and he says, yeah, like I was there. And nobody mentioned it to me. So I don't know where this is coming from. So I don't know if it's smoke. I don't know if AJ's just kind of playing it off. Maybe he does know something and he doesn't want to get into it because, Pedro does still have a job and that would probably be distasteful. But I don't buy it. And, I'll go ahead and let you throw out, your reasons why you could see it happen and why you can make a case for it. Because I could sit here and probably make the same points, and I'm probably thinking the same thing, but I want to give you an opportunity to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I think AJ absolutely knows what's going on. AJ's a fan of WWE. He's a wrestling guy. He knows the drama. He knows all of that. He knows the act. He knows it better than anybody else. But this is what AJ said in response to the whole Nightingale blurb that he put out. And he said it on his Foul Territory podcast. Would I take the managerial job? I would love to interview for it or have the opportunity to try to fix the organization because it's not good right now, Pierzynski said on Monday. But this is interesting to me that this kind of came out of nowhere, but they have a manager. So it's not for now. It's not for right now. Okay, it's not like there's an open, but we all know what's going on. AJ playing, coy, They have a manager, of course, right now. They won't in a couple months. There's no way Pedro Grifol survives this.
God, I hope not.
I mean,
We
come on.
say there's no way, but Lord, can
Of course,
they
there's a
surprise
way.
us?
There's a way, but there can't be a way. So
No.
you honestly just have to look not too far back, and it's of course Ozzie Guillen and it's Robin Ventura. You mentioned Robin Ventura. Now, Ozzie Guillen, a fan favorite, left probably not under his terms when he left the White Sox. It still played for a couple other organizations for a while. Was a third base coach for the Marlins for a few seasons. So it was a World Series championship Marlins team. So
Indeed.
I think shortstops can make good managers. You're kind of the field general there with the catcher, which we'll get to in a bit. So he had some coaching experience. After they needed to make a managerial change, the White Sox in 2003, like you had to have some fire. You had to go an opposite way. And Ozzie Guillen won them over. Kenny Williams said, look, you have no chance, but we'll do the interview. And Ozzie Guillen, got them to think in a different direction. 2004 was not a bad season. 2004 was looking like the Sox could maybe make a push, at least a wild card, and things got kind of fizzled towards the end. And then obviously we know, the history, is written. Now that ended the way it ended. And then I don't think the Sox knew exactly at all what they were doing. No shocker, right? They had no idea where the organization was going. They were absolutely in quicksand. So you bring in another fan favorite. It's like there's no way that the fans are going to storm the castle for this guy. Robin Ventura was beloved. You're quiet guy, unassuming. Hey, it worked out for Ozzie. Well, let's see if it's going to work out for Ventura. And I think for a while it was like, hey, it's Ventura. He probably shouldn't even be here to begin with, right? He was a scout for like a hot minute with the organization, and then they brought him in. So it's not his fault. That right there, that track record, and Jerry, of course, still being the owner and pretty much the same owner group and everybody else in their nepotism roles. Why not do the same formula? Look, this is the organization that brought La Russa back. So I could totally see this is how it would go.
Faces, down that list.
Now, why it is maddening, I think, to a lot of fans. I can't speak exactly. Again, to be honest with you, with the way this club is going and what we're probably going to see for the next couple of years, great. Bring AJ in. It will sell tickets. There will be a large fan base that will get absolutely stoked that AJ Pierzynski's back. He's going to hold people accountable. He's a fan favorite. It's the 05 team and the 05 anniversary in 2025. People will come back to this organization. Okay.
Now, I was just going to ask you, do you think that there's any coincidence to this being leaked right now at this point in the season after a draft and right before a trade deadline? And the announcement that there is going to be a Sox Fest on the anniversary of the 2005 World Series team. It hasn't happened since before COVID.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a reason why this happens. There are absolutely reasons why this happens. It gets fans kind of excited. Some fans absolutely irate, hate it, can't stand it.
Buy those Sox Fest tickets now, folks.
Yeah. So AJ getting leaked in, whether he would even, seriously want it. I think he wants to manage. I'm sure he would like to be in baseball in that role. And I think he could be a good manager. I think he's got a great baseball mind. He was a smart player. I think he plays with a certain edge that it would be tough to replicate or try to get out of other players. But I think he would speak his mind and he would hold players accountable.
Yeah, he's not going to take any crap from any of these guys in the locker room.
Absolutely. And during some years where the Sox are just not going to be very good, could he be instrumental in developing players? I don't know. We don't know that. But when you've got nothing going for you, that's what the Sox do. They bring in a fan favorite to manage the team. And with Ozzie, it worked. It absolutely worked. And with Renteria or with Ventura, he had it for 2012. That was still kind of like Ozzy's team, and they had it until September, and then he had it at the beginning of 2016, where they were the hottest team in baseball for like the first month and a half, and then it all fizzled, and we know what happened with the rebuild. So again, I wouldn't be
Excuse me.
I wouldn't be mad if AJ came in. I'd be like, that's what they do. That's what the White Sox do. And you know what? When this
Good
team
evening.
is unwatchable right now, I'm going to tune in to see what AJ does. Just like I
I mean,
tuned
it
into the
gives us a
post
little
game.
something to at least watch. What it could turn out to be great, or it could turn out to be, another one of these shit shows. Pardon my French. Uh, Remains to be seen. But there are a lot of reasons to make it happen. Uh, I see people talking about like, what Clutch brings up the fact, would he like the young players? I don't know if it really matters if he likes the young players. I don't think it really matters the young player like him. You're not there to be somebody's friend. I think this new generation of soft in baseball needs to go away. There's a lot. Baseball, the game has changed well, you know what? Doesn't matter if I have a 35% strikeout rate because I can hit 30 tanks a year. And it's garbage. It's garbage. It's destroying the game. I don't care what people say. Offense is great. Watching guys strike out 35% of the time blows. You know what I mean? And I think he would change some philosophies with some of these young guys. I just hope he doesn't break some of these young guys. But you know what? If you're easily broken because you can't handle a guy who's a little tougher, a little rough around the edges, I probably don't want you playing for me anyway. You got to have grit to play this game. It's not the fastest paced game in the world. If you don't have that grit and you don't have that heart and you don't keep your mind in the game, a la Luis Robert, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
All the talent in the world can't seem to put it together. Uh, you know, I don't want a guy who's going to fall asleep in my clubhouse. I don't want guys sleeping in the dugout or in the bullpen, like we heard about last season. I don't want guys who are soft around the edges. Go out there, play baseball, take it on the shoulders. If it doesn't work out for you, move on.
Yeah.
And I think he could provide that, but I don't know how that's going to work out.
Yeah, I agree with you. All that type of that grit and that perseverance, and just the edge, the
Teams been missing
toughness.
fire.
It really has. That I think he can bring. The question is the development. How will he be with all of the young guys that start coming up in the 2 years? And there's going to be more, right? Because there'll be more deals this off season. That wasn't really. I don't remember that from Guillen's era. I don't think there was a ton of like development. It was we had major league ready players. Those were to win teams. Those were to compete teams just about every year. That didn't always work. All right, there was some
But
rough seasons under Guillen.
you could make, like you said, you can make a case for the 04 season looking pretty good. We know everybody knows what happens in 05. 06 was a really good team. 08 was a good team. Things didn't work out in the postseason for some of those teams, but the team was watchable on a daily basis. There were major league ready players, and they came out fighting day in and day out. So you didn't feel the way you feel now.
Yeah. Yeah, there were a lot of people. Referee 583 in the chat said that on foul territory, they said nothing will change till Jerry is gone and the team is sold. And I think that was what a lot of people were going to on social media as well. I saw a lot of Sox fans just being like, when will this be over? Like, when, how will this change? When will this change? Is there any hope? And I hate to say, but that is the common reality.
And
It
you think
is.
that this is a guy that's going to get hired for manager after saying something like that? Because, I mean, he didn't say until Jerry dies, but we all know Jerry's not going to sell the team.
And
So
again,
when
I'm
you say
wondering if
that things
that,
are not going to change, and you basically just said things aren't going to change
and
until
I'm
the
wondering if
chairman
that's
dies.
all, tongue in cheek. I wonder if they talk, Jerry and AJ, and AJ, has said to Jerry, "I'm going to say these types of things." Like I'm going to build like that. There's this I guess this layer that it's not going to happen. And Jerry might say, "Go ahead, talk, do what you want to do. We'll make a scene out of this. And so it could just be all for show. It
Yeah,
really
it could
could.
be. And there's no doubt that Jerry has thick skin because I know he hears a lot of what the fan base has to say and the sell
Yeah,
signs and t-shirts and billboards all over the city. And he continues to do what he does. So, I mean, thick skin, he might not give a damn what he's got to say. If he thinks AJ is going to be the one to bring him the most profitability, I don't think it really matters, but it sure is a bold statement, is all I'm saying.
yeah. Luis Robert Jr. not traded. It sounds like the offers weren't quite there.
Number three,
And
burning through him tonight.
I wonder if we hype Luis Robert Jr. up more than he actually is worth, and if the rest of the baseball world, the rest of the executives and GMs do just say, look, of course, he's got unbelievable talent, but look at his track record. Look at his sustainability. Look at, you know, has he's been able to put it together for a long period of time, or am I just buying into hope? Am I just going to be dumping my farm for somebody that sure could do it, but are they going to be able to do it for a long period of time when I need them to, enough to give up what I'm about to give up? You know what I'm saying? Like, we see the flashes, we've seen it, but I haven't seen it with like the regularity where a team would open up their farm system. I think that's the big worry out there. So I get why he is still in a White Sox uniform. I don't think he is. I don't think he's convinced executives. Would that be fair?
Uh, to a point, I think it is fair because I mean, obviously, a guy who going into the ninth game was hitting 221 with 12 dingers on the season. Yeah, granted, he missed a couple months and he's been banged up, and that's probably the biggest knock on him is his injury history. Um, but at the other time, and it was mentioned in the chat as well. I mean, his contract is pretty light.
Yeah.
But, I keep hearing that he's on a team friendly contract. People want to talk about how friendly this contract is for Luis Robert Jr. But until he starts producing better than 220 and 12 dingers, he's had one good season, which was last year. He had one really full 145 games, I think it was last year, where he came out and he had 38 dingers, and he hit all close to 280. Yeah, okay, he's capable. He had a breakout year last year, and then he comes here and I don't know if this guy is like doing exercises to be a better Latin lover in the off season because I feel like he's doing these. I mean, I saw something on YouTube not long ago, and I won't say from where because I really don't want to spread too much crap.
Oh
But
boy.
I saw somebody claim that he's been doing those. I don't forget what the exercise is called, but they're basically putting plates, 40-pound plates, 45-pound plates on their pelvis and laying on the ground and thrusting towards the ceiling because a lot of these apparently Latin guys think they need to do this, that they want to be porn stars in the off season. I don't know what it is. This was the claim. This is not me making this claim. I saw something else and I found it laughable, but then I thought to myself, there might be truth to it. The way these, hammies and hip flexors are going, I don't know.
So, are you saying to me right now that most Latin players do love baseball, but their passion is porn, and that is something that they strive for?
I'm not saying
it's like
that.
they're cashing the checks, they're cashing the baseball checks just to fuel their porn passions in the
right, because
okay.
making $50 million isn't enough to be able to go out and do that. Again, I'm not. This is not coming from me. I just
You're
found it
just
funny, and I wanted to share it with
don't
with
kill
the
the
people
messenger
here.
is what you're saying. All right,
Right, exactly.
okay.
I found it hilarious. I don't buy it, but
Okay.
I mean, I was like, there might be a little bit of truth to that. I
You're
don't
buying
really
some of
know.
it.
It's
You're buying
there's some of
some.
it that sounds kind of
Look,
plausible,
the
but then if
fact
you
that
look at
you need
how the money he's making, how do you really need to do that? I mean, you guys can land chicks, however they want. We pull up in their thing. I just thought it was hilarious, and my wife actually just entered the room and is now dying. She's choking to death over here because. So
well,
that's great. Peyton Lowry says MLB to porn pipeline.
yeah, that's
That's funny
great.
stuff.
That's
But
great.
no, my thing is he's oft injured and he's got all the talent in the world. And the one thing that it really kills me more than anything is he's got the same issue he's had since the day he stepped onto a Major League Baseball field. He cannot lay off the low and away stuff. He needs to be looking middle all day, every day. He'll see a lot more better pitches. He'll probably put a lot more over the wall and a lot more in play. I would not have been mad if he would have went. I'm tired of watching this guy struggle because he can't get past a mental blockage. So
you're okay
I
if he's
want him
dealt
to.
in the off season.
Yeah, I mean, I wish we were getting more for him. I wish we were getting more production from him, but
You
we're not.
cannot. It's really. I think that's the problem, right? Is to be rewarding too much on past performances and not enough on future capabilities. And so how much do you lean
This
on?
chat is hilarious right now. By the
I
way,
mean,
I'm sorry I put that
well,
out there.
I mean, I just feel like Danny, you needed to. I think for it's just therapeutic. You saw something, you wanted to talk about it,
It
and
was
I think
funny.
deep down in places you don't want to talk about, you believe there's some truth. You
There,
actually.
sure. We'll go with that. Fine.
Okay, all right.
I'll take that one on the chin. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I better watch how I say that when we're talking about we're making porn references on a baseball
Oh boy,
podcast.
I just
Oof.
I will be asking you in future episodes how many 45-pound plates you have laying around now in your living room.
Zero.
Okay.
I am not some sex goddess, sex machine, whatever.
Yet. There's
No, but
always the
maybe I
yet.
should take up a Luis Robert. What was it? Pipeline to porn workout.
Oh,
Sure.
clutch. Clutch is all over it here. Danny deep down is a Cuban pelvis.
Oh,
Fetish
see
there.
now we're thanks, Clutch. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
We're gonna go
It's
off the deep end now.
yeah. So look, I just I think about Luis Robert Jr. about we still haven't really seen the consistent production. There's a lot of question marks about health. You could see some executives saying he just seems kind of zoned out, checked out, nonchalant. Maybe that's because he is so good and it looks effortless. I don't know, but we have seen these, and anytime you're a fan of somebody, you put them up higher, really, than I think they often maybe are in the world of baseball's eyes. And this could be one of those cases where, oh, we've got absolutely have to get the top prospects, the farm for Luis Robert Jr. And I don't think that's the case. I think when Luis Robert Jr. is traded, it's going to be kind of underwhelming for people, which isn't surprising because look at what happened in the last couple of days.
I mean, maybe it's the best thing that he didn't get traded at this deadline for the White Sox, because if he can find something the second half of the season, maybe his value
That's the hope.
skyrockets again.
Absolutely. That's the hope right now. Yeah.
I'm sure there are some GMs out there that feel like, maybe just a change of scenery will be good for him too. But that doesn't mean that they're going to necessarily be willing to part with some of their better prospects or even, young MLB ready baseball players. And I think that was probably a big part of what held up anything happening this
And change of scenery is just a euphemism for a better organization that knows how to develop players that can see something that the Sox don't see, that have, better analytics. They have more bodies in the front office that are doing forward thinking things. And hey, the Sox don't have these systems in place. We do as an organization. And I'm sure, we can unlock whatever is going on.
Yeah, I what, I'm sure that's probably going to be a big part of what happens, moving forward. I think that's part of probably why Eloy got dealt today, because regardless of what his numbers being down this year and him driving the ball into the dirt, he's got an enormous 50% hard hit rate. He's got all the uh, peripherals that are in the right place. He just can't seem to find the right launch angle. And I think the Orioles feel like they can tweak something with him. I'm hoping there's probably something very similar going on with Luis Robert, but we'll have to wait till the offseason to find that out.
Now, didn't Baltimore? Didn't they just do something with their left field wall? Did they move it back, or I thought last year they did something for
I am
right-handed hitters.
unawares.
It's a little tricky, but I don't know. Yeah, you're right. Maybe they've looked at what is going on with Eloy and they're like, you know what? We've seen it before. We know exactly what to do. We know what he's doing. I'm surprised it hasn't been unlocked by the White Sox or by Eloy. We're gonna be able to do something with this. I'll have to check in. I've got a Baltimore Orioles friend of mine that I every now and then we'll chat, and he's very knowledgeable on everything Baltimore and what they've got, what they're willing to give up, and what they're doing. And so I'll have to check with him and see what do you guys see on Eloy that we're not seeing, especially if Eloy catches fire.
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me. And it's talked about, in the chat that everybody that got traded today won for all the
Tommy
guys that
Pham hit a
are
grand slam for the Cardinals, and that's what
I mean,
happened.
change of scenery might be exactly what a lot of these guys need. So,
Yeah,
we'll see. But
yeah.
it's I mean, what does that say about the White Sox? Probably tells us exactly what we've been thinking this whole time. It's just a poorly run organization, and there needs to be an overhaul in a lot of places.
Yeah, I was pretty underwhelmed these last couple days. I think what was we were still toying around with that 8.5 as the over under
And I think we ended
of
up with
guys
a
moved.
6 or
It
7.
was definitely under.
Yeah.
And there was talk of like, well, this could be absolutely over. Who are you surprised that did not get moved? Anybody that you thought they were going to be out the door and they're still in a Sox uniform?
Eh, no, I think maybe there was one or two bullpen arms I think could have went. I think Steven Wilson probably could have went somewhere maybe. Bradby, here's the thing. In the last 2 weeks, we talked
Yeah.
about, I mentioned a lot of bullpen arms going out there. And as bad as the bullpen's been this year, the last 2 weeks, they seem to just really implode. And I think
Yes.
that changed a lot of minds. There's a lot of recency's bias going into these
Mm-hmm.
deadlines.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was probably a big part of what was going on. So I don't know if I'm surprised. I think if you would have asked me, say, Friday, before the weekend started and before the trades really started rolling, where I thought we were going to be on it over under, I probably would have changed the under then, just because that bullpen was really rough.
If Kopech doesn't have that immaculate inning, I don't know if he gets traded. I feel like that immaculate inning completely saved him.
Well, I also think that the Dodgers believe they can probably change up his pitch usage, maybe put him in a different type situation. I think they can fix them. I think they were just looking for a power arm out of their bullpen, and they figure they can do something with them. But yeah, I'll agree that immaculate inning probably worked wonders for his availability at the deadline, or at least
Yeah.
in the teams of eyes, pursuing him.
Yeah. We're approaching about at the hour mark. It's been an eventful last couple days. The dust is going to settle. We won't know what's going on with these returns for a while now. I mean, we'll all be watching Vargas pretty closely, and maybe we'll be looking at some of these guys that left the White Sox, and just follow. It's going to be tough for me not to follow Eloy. Just like, does he turn things around, and Kopech, just because those were such big pieces that were supposed to help the White Sox out of the dark and into a whole different era. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time following them, but I'll be
Right.
curious, and it'll find me. I know it. When Kopech or Eloy have good games, it'll be all over social media, and I
I
will.
was gonna say
Yeah.
Twitter will probably do the following for you.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it'll show up on my feed, so I'm not too worried about that. But It's going to be a tough rest of the season, buddy. You know that. I know that. Everybody with us listening and watching and jumping in, it's going to be difficult. I mean,
It is.
I look at what Jonathan Cannon did tonight in this loss. It was a nice start. I think he went 7 innings, didn't give up much. Since the last time we talked, Drew Thorpe laid an egg, but I'm hoping that's just a blip. Those will happen. He just got everything he threw was in the zone
Seems like
against.
he's got like, it's like every third or fourth game he has like a blow up game, but then he's got like 3 straight that are absolute gems. So maybe it's just something that being a rookie, he can find a little bit more consistency, because when he does pitch those gems, he's really enjoyable to watch. But those blow up
Yeah,
games are rough.
yeah, it's rough because this is somebody that we're hinging on. It felt the same way when Kopech struggled or Giolito struggled, years ago. Oh, this is the future. We got a lot depending on this, and hopefully this time I got to be a little bit more patient. But that's tough to ask of Sox fans. We've been asked so much.
Yeah. Uh, right now with the draft behind us and the trade deadline behind us now, I think the focus has to be on, I think that the 40 man before the game started today was set 37. So there's going to be a couple more moves coming here. We're going to see a lot more of the youngsters as the season goes on. And that's really where our focus is going to be. And, they're going to give us plenty to talk about, as they always do. We know you and I have come into these podcasts in these live streams a few times. We're like, what are we going to talk about? We're not
Sure.
beating a dead horse. And thank you to the chat for
Yeah.
jumping in
Great chat
and
tonight.
keeping us
Yep.
on our toes. You guys are
Yep.
awesome. Peyton, I'm gonna ask you to stop with that Billy Pierce stuff. It's hilarious. 3 more losses to get to 19.
Man,
For Billy Pierce,
I
but
can't believe it. Well, what's the
I
record?
mean,
24, like the all-time
I
baseball
don't. You know what? I
in
haven't
the
even looked at
history
it
of the
because I
game.
don't want to get there. As bad as this team is, I mean, we've had enough historically bad
Yeah,
creating
16,
history. Like,
16 games,
I
man.
mean, enough's
Yeah,
enough. Like
yeah.
we're all taking beatings from
Well,
from all directions. So
yeah.
it's funny. I get it, and I appreciate the chat and the comment. But man, I don't want to see 19. Oh, I
Hopefully,
do not.
hopefully we won't be talking about 19 and beyond next time. We fire up the mics. Hopefully, we'll be talking about some positives, some guys that maybe be turning some things around, some things that are bright spots in this. Floundering White Sox organization. But as always, really appreciate everybody giving us their time here on Tuesday night as we're kind of wrapping up the trade deadline and another loss by the Sox. Find the audio absolutely everywhere you find your podcasts. Please do us a favor, subscribe, smash the like button, set the notifications for FutureSox YouTube channel. It means a ton. It goes a long way. We here at Hot Takes and Heaters, we're the MLB centric show of the Future Sox family, and so much great content is being done absolutely everywhere. FutureSox.com, I believe, is our
Yeah. And
our
thank you to our
website.
tippers. Absolutely thank you to
Yeah,
our tippers. You know, we really appreciate that. And I think, now that we've unlocked super chats in the last couple of weeks, we're probably going to put their heads together and give you guys a reason to, I don't know, do something fun with that.
yeah.
We'll dance around like, organ grinder monkeys out here for, whatever. We'll figure something out to fun for that. But we
Well,
appreciate you guys for tipping us for
I,
absolutely no reason other than the content.
I got a good idea. It's at 45-pound weight. See if we can get that on your
Oh
pellet.
no. We're not putting that on video anywhere.
All right.
Absolutely not. You
All
know
right.
what? It would be
Okay.
hilarious, but the internet never forgets. So we're not. I will not be the face of that.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you guys.
Hey,
Thanks
this is
again for
great.
that.
Man, thank you. It means a lot. Find Future Sax on all the socials. He's Danny Miller at Danny Miller FS. I am Nick Murawski at Nick _ GGTB. Hey, until next time, go Sox.